Welcome back to an episode of Shift Happens. Today we're going to be talking about the shift from what we believe ideal motherhood is to mommy guilt. Motherhood, you expect it to feel natural. You prepare for motherhood. You read all the books. You listen to Beethoven with headphones on your belly. You buy all the gear. You think of all the perfect names and all the nicknames that would get them picked on. Like you think you're doing all the right things. And deep down you think, I'm sure this isn't the natural instinct will kick in. I'm sure this isn't that hard. Everyone else does it. And then the baby arrives, and instead of feeling like this was natural, you feel overwhelmed, unsure, unprepared, unfit, and maybe even disconnected from your baby. Now, of course, this isn't the reality for everybody, but I don't think it's talked about enough. And so, does these feelings make you a bad mom? I'd like to introduce my fellow bad moms. Of course, if you don't know already, I'm Bobby Joe. I'm a mother of twin daughters who are 14, and this is my experiment, this podcast. To my right is Paula. Paula, why don't you tell us who you are and what came out of you?
Oh, I am the proud mother of a 32-year-old, well, he will be 32 in August, young man, and a 33-year-old wonderful woman. And I am the proudest ninny of 6 little ones, all 6 and under. And as you can see, one of them just woke up and was not happy about leaving mama's lap. So we have an extra guest for you today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, tried and true to the podcast episode today. Of course, we wanted moms, and we had a plan, and Dad's work schedule changed the plan. And so you've got to work with what you got. This is how we make motherhood and life as humans work for us. To my left is Jackie. Jackie, why don't you tell us about you?
And what came out of you?
Yeah.
I'm Jackie. I'm 30 years old, and I have a 9-week-old now. He's the little boy. He's at home with Dad right now, which has been nice this morning.
Yeah. And then, of course, finally, our little guest, Thomas. Hi, Thomas. He's like, don't say my name. And then Thomas's mom, who belongs to Thomas.
I'm Megan. I am the mother of 2 little boys, 1, 2, and one is 10 months going on 11 months, almost.
He says, don't be talking about me over there, Mama.
Yeah. We've got a lot of testosterone coming out of here. Except for me, I'm the odd one out. So I kind of want to do like a brief kind of background in each of your like motherhood journey. Some of you are still in it. And kind of expand on the mother you thought you would be versus the mother you are now. So, for example, I thought that I would have like a bilingual pair. I discovered I don't want a stranger living in my house. I thought that I would like introduce my kids to like multiple languages, and I don't know. I just thought there was this idea of who I thought I would be, and then basically the girls came, and I was just trying to survive. I also discovered that for me personally, being a mother was not natural for me. I had debated having children. I jokingly say I'm not officially on the spectrum, but I swear that I am. I do struggle with like logic versus emotions. So once my children came into the world, the things I could do really well, like naturally, like breastfeeding came very natural. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do a lot of that. That's going to be my focus. Make sure I do as much of that as possible. And then everything I was really bad at, which was pretty much like the mothering your children. I did a lot of research, and like, every stage my child was in, like I'd read the book and I was like, okay, so they're really cranky right now, not because I suck, but because they're having a growth spurt. And we're going to be compassionate about that process, and we're not going to take it personal, and we're just going to get through it. So again, trying to make everything logical, not emotional. So that's kind of an idea of like what I thought motherhood looked like. Again, on pair, we did not. Why don't we start with you? Why don't you tell me what you thought? Obviously, you got married and had kids pretty quickly. So
Yeah. We got married, and he was already technically conceived. So definitely wasn't planning that.
So you were like 31.
Yeah, 31-ish when we found out I was pregnant.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never expected to be a stay-at-home mom either. So that was one thing that I guess I had to figure out that first because I didn't know whether or not. It's okay.
Whether or not that would be like your reality or that would work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was the hard part. It's just, I don't know, becoming a parent, you like don't realize how much you give up in life when you've been living life for 30 something years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that we talk about that kind of like in my outline a little bit later. Is kind of I remember going to my sister came into town to help. I'm sure I've told everyone this story. I like to tell it because I think it kind of makes motherhood a little bit more tangible from a realistic standpoint. But and we went on to dinner. We're sitting at dinner, and I start tearing up. And Mark's like, "Are you okay? Do you want to go home? We can go home." And I was like, "No, I'm crying because I know we have to go home." And I'm not kidding. That's exactly how I felt. Because in that moment, I was just so overwhelmed by motherhood that I was mourning. I was mourning getting to like enjoy dinner and then like going home to like no responsibilities. In that moment, I was mourning it.
Yeah.
That didn't mean I love my children any less, and that's what I think we need to, really talk about more. So how about you? You're in the throes of just figuring out what kind of mom you thought you'd be and the mom that you kind of are kind of realizing you are.
Yeah.
Is it aligning or are you finding some inconsistencies?
Definitely inconsistencies. I thought I would be like the chill, feed when they feed, or like, follow the cues, not planning, oh, it's been 2 hours, but I find myself, it's been 2 hours. All right, so I need to have this ready, but now I'm like, oh, I need to look for the cues first. I can't just be like, he's gonna be hungry.
He better be hungry right now.
2 hours.
Yeah.
Everything's on a schedule, and going out, I'm like, oh, we can't go out because I need to wait. I need to feed, change, and then he'll be like napping. It'll be perfect.
I really believe that is a new generational thing because when my kids were little, I could go anywhere, do anything. They'd sleep underneath people's coffee tables. They'd sleep on people's couches. They'd sleep on people's lawn chairs.
Why are your kids sleeping everywhere? Do you know they
Well,
sleep
I'm
at
just
home?
saying. But now watching my daughter and my daughter-in-law, they have to be in their crib. They have to be here. They have to be in a completely dark room. They have to, all these things that they set up this perfect environment for their kids. We just didn't do that with my generation.
Well-
You just let them. They were kind of feral.
Well, maybe.
I mean, we still do the like he should nap. Like we just went to a brewery the other day, and he was knocked out.
And
There
you
was
were
live
drunk
music. I had one beer and I was pretty
just
lit.
kidding.
I was like,
Wow.
I was like, whoa, this is only halfway through the beer. I'm like, I don't know if I can finish this. Like, I'm gonna be pumping and dumping. So,
No,
but
he
he was
sleeps so well after
he was
that.
knocked out. He also had his first blowout in public, so that was fun.
That's
Yeah,
fun.
you see?
But we run the vacuum when he's around too. But he's just now getting to this where sometimes we do have to have the dark room, crib, noise machine, or he won't nap, and then it's hell.
My friend growing up called me the nap Nazi because I'm not kidding you. We would have a play date and I'd be like, oh, we gotta go, because if the girls fell asleep even for like a minute. Or even like, I'm not kidding you, like 5 seconds in the car, nap was over, and then they didn't get a real nap, and then they were miserable. And it was more about me surviving and me not losing it, and making sure that they were, like those things that were planned were like I was prepared for. And I think in some ways it's controlling what you can control.
Yeah.
Because you cannot, they're little terrorists.
Yeah.
They are.
You cannot,
Yeah.
you cannot reason with terrorists.
They
I will
control
say
everything.
with him,
You can't.
you can't. It's true.
There's no, think about it with your marriages. You look at your husband and you're like, listen, I'm not in the mood. I don't want to go to dinner, right? And he's like, okay, well, if you don't want to go to dinner, what about if we order in? And you're like, okay, fine. Like there's this whole, finding that common ground,
Yeah.
right? Look at your child and try to, negotiate.
You can't.
Try to negotiate.
You can't.
They can't.
No.
You can't control them.
I will say with him, I 100% was like strictly on a schedule. And I was like, he cannot miss his naps. He needs to be, the first couple months I was like a little more lenient just because I could nurse him and he'd fall asleep and he'd just sleep on me for the first like couple months that he was born. But then once like we hit like 3 months, I was like, he's got to be in a dark room, all of this. And I will say with my second one, I'm a lot more lenient because I'm like, well, he'll figure it out. He'll
Just
sleep when he
because you're
sleeps.
you're outnumbered now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought I would be breastfeeding and I would push through it. then I became exclusively pumping, and I never thought I'd be a formula mom. And now I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm so done pumping.
Yeah.
I want to just wake up, feed him, and be able to cuddle him, and not worry about having pumps and not being able to cuddle my little bean. So
Yeah. I know my daughter, her oldest now is, Callie's 15 months? And she's struggling with the fact that she's going to have to give up breastfeeding because she's not producing the way she wants to. And I'm just like, I applaud her immensely because she has been strictly breastfed all 4 of her kids. And it just...
Yeah, that means she's
It's
been
hard.
breastfeeding for 7 years.
almost 7.
it's so hard. I still have, I cried for like a week, and Andrew, my husband, was just there like, you did great. Like,
Exactly.
You're okay.
I think we put way too much pressure on
Well,
ourselves.
And I think that's just a perfect transition because it comes into this mommy guilt, which is really what this is about, right? So let's just kind of roll it back. I'm blessed enough that in my career, I've been able to go up into labor and delivery and meet many mothers. But most of the time, besides when I'm placing the epidurals, I'm usually called in to provide anesthesia for a cesarean section or a C-section. And I would say more than half the time, it's usually like failure to progress or something of that nature where, the mom's not going to be able to vaginally deliver and the baby needs to be, C-sectioned. And in that case, it's never the mother's plan, right? There's planned C-sections, like if someone's had a prior history or multiples or whatever. But in this case, it's usually failure to progress. And immediately, you put that label, failure, right? So you failed.
Yeah.
Now you have to have a C-section. So not only do these women come in already nervous because they know they have to have surgery, this isn't part of their plan, but they immediately start having guilt about it. They have guilt like I've already, this is some test and I've somehow failed it. And so one of my things that I always say to those mothers, all of them, is it doesn't matter how you have your baby. It doesn't matter if you have it in your bathroom by yourself. It doesn't matter if you had an epidural. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, if you're there having a C-section. Because at the end of the day, your child will not ask you,
Yeah.
are you oh, you had a C-section, you're less of a mother. Your kids do not see you that way. You are a mother no matter how you have your child. So I think, let's not, don't pit each other against each other like, well, I did it all natural. God bless you. I knew I didn't have to, and I chose not to.
Exactly.
When you walk into a room and you put an epidural in somebody who's literally sobbing, crying, and then suddenly they're laughing and chatting, it's hard to not choose that option for me. Do it the painful, fast way, I guess. But anyway, it was also safer for me. I'll use that as an excuse just in case of emergencies, those epidurals. So, I think that's important to kind of talk about is, that guilt that comes with already birth expectations. But, did you feel any pressure? I mean,
when
having a C-section, right?
When I had 2 C-sections, both of mine failure to progress, as they call it, which is just I hate that term also.
Yeah.
And there was, it was kind of a taboo thing with some of the moms, was like, oh, you don't know what it's like to give childbirth. Well, yeah, I do. I still birthed a child, and I went through 18 hours of labor with one and 12 with the other. But yeah, and same way, I was not able to breastfeed. I just did not produce milk. I don't know if it's because, I was on so many medications to keep Megan in, so I didn't produce milk. And breastfeeding wasn't pushed as much as it is in this day and age. Back then it was complete. They came in, are you going to breastfeed? I'm going to try. You can't do it. Okay. Put cabbage leaves on your boobs and let's move on, because that's what we used to do back in the...
Did that really work?
Yeah. They put cabbage leaves on the boobs, and that was how I would dry.
Yeah.
That's how I dried up my milk.
I was about to try that now.
Yeah.
She's heading home. She's buying herself a cabbage on the way home.
And so I did. I felt, because I wasn't able to produce, I was a failure. But my thing back then was Gary and I were so poor. All I kept thinking is how much formula cost, and how much this cost, and how much that cost. I wanted to breastfeed to help keep my family floating. But now breastfeeding is definitely more prominent. You didn't talk about it back then. I didn't know if my neighbor was breastfeeding or not. You just didn't talk about it. And if you did breastfeed,
nobody whipped a boob
you're
out,
back in
huh?
yeah, you're back in a corner somewhere in another room and do it. Now I look over and I'm like, oh, okay, Tyler, enjoy your meal. You know, they just and I see my granddaughter go right up to my daughter, and when she's ready, she's 15 months old. She's like pulling at her, and Megan only does it to lay her down for naps and stuff now. But that's how we know Callie's getting tired, and Megan does excuse herself and go and do that.
yeah.
But I mean, it's different watching my generation grow up as opposed to the generation I'm helping raise.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I was lucky. Both my twins were head down, head down. So I was given the option of either a C-section or a vaginal birth. With a C-section, it's pretty straightforward. You go back, they take the babies out. With a vaginal birth, the second twin can flip. So then you end up vaginally delivering one and C-sectioning the other.
Yeah.
And in that case, it sucks because you're going to have to recover from both. So for anyone who's vaginally birthed and then had a C-section or vice versa, they are different recoveries. Understand that C-sections are actually major abdominal surgery. But I was able to deliver naturally, again, breastfed. The nurse walked in, she said, oh, your boobs are built for breastfeeding. I still don't know what that means. I think it's my giant areolas or my giant nipples. That's my guess. I don't know what a good boob is for breastfeeding. They did work that way, but I don't feel like I'm special because I was able to. When people say, "Oh, wow, you're superwoman," my cervix held them in. I didn't like have a conversation with it and be
Excuse
like,
me.
"Listen, we're gonna hold these twins in for 39 months, and I'm gonna
39
impress some
months?
people."
39 months.
Oh.
God, it feels like that long when you carry twins at 39 weeks. I didn't have a conversation with my breasts like, hey, listen, you need to make milk, you need to feed your babies. Like, it wasn't, I didn't have any ownership of it. So how is someone like having to have a C-section? Why should they have ownership for that? I don't see why that can't just both be acceptable.
Yeah.
Did you have, like, I know that Jackie has kind of a birth story trauma. How about you? Do you feel like you had a pretty
no,
straightforward?
she was meant to have babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just falling out of you.
Pretty much. I would say the first one, I went into labor with him. My water broke spontaneously, and I was in there for maybe
2 hours.
I pushed like 3 times and he came out.
As a matter of fact, the nurses came in and said, please don't share your story with the other women on the floor because they're not going to like you.
Yeah. And then him, Tyler, I walked around and I was like 6 centimeters dilated and was having contractions and didn't even feel a thing. Went in, they induced me, and I was induced for, I had to wait because I tested positive for the GB.
Yeah.
The group B
that's it,
strep. Yeah. So if I wouldn't have had to take the antibiotics, he probably would have been here a lot sooner. But she came and checked me, and I was like 7-8 centimeters dilated. Came in like an hour later, and I was like, yeah, I'm ready to push. And she was like, no, you're not. And I was like, yeah, I am. And she checked me, and I was 10 centimeters, and his head was like right there. And she's like, oh, yep. And I pushed for maybe like twice, and he came straight out. Yeah, I know. Oh, did you get wet? It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, so I try not to because sometimes people you're like, really? And I'm like, sorry, it was just
That's the birth I wanted.
It's a birth they all want.
Yeah.
Well, because like basically she's describing not laboring.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I truly did not feel much of my labor, to be honest with you.
So you did do it natural, no?
Everything was, I did have epidurals, but
okay.
for the most part, like I said, up until I was like 6 centimeters dilated, I didn't really feel a thing. I have a high pain tolerance, so I was just kind of like, meh, because I guess I was like laboring the whole entire day, walking back and forth from here over to the surgery center, and I didn't even realize it. And then I got home and my water broke, and I was like, well.
Yeah, and that's also a misconception. I want to say, I don't know the exact statistic off the top of my head, but it's something like 16% or 20%. It's actually a really low percent of women who actually have spontaneous rupture of membranes.
Yep.
So the fact that movies always have like rupturing,
Yep.
it's actually uncommon.
Yeah. I was really hoping my second one it would happen again, but he was stubborn.
Yeah.
So stubborn. If I wouldn't have been technically induced, I probably would have never.
He is our clean freak. See, he got a little something on his shirt and went and got a new shirt
Oh.
because he does not like anything dirty or wet on him.
Wow.
It's pretty traumatic.
She's still.
I handled it pretty well, apparently. I was pretty delusional by the end of it. I had gestational hypertension, so I made it to 37 weeks. I was on bed rest for 2 weeks, which was terrible. Literally, my husband did not let me get up from the couch.
Good for him.
Yeah. I was supposed to get induced the 2 days after Christmas. No, the day after Christmas is when I was supposed to go in the hospital. Everybody wanted to have babies the day after, so I didn't get in until the Saturday. Yeah, and it was pretty much nothing for the first 24 hours. I caved and ended up taking some sleep medicine that night because I just could not sleep with the checkups every 2 hours. And I was in labor for 32 hours. Yeah, it was pretty intense. And I was on liquid diet for that whole 32 hours. They couldn't control my high blood pressure, so I ended up having to go on MAG Sunday night. And then that slowed everything down with Pitocin.
Right.
They were working against each other, so I didn't have seizures. Mm-hmm. It was pretty intense. Before I got the MAG, I was laboring without epidural, and I was like, okay, I'm good. And then they kept cranking up the Pitocin, and at one point, I wish I took a picture of the monitor. I mean, the contractions were like, there was no break at all. So I ended up getting one, thankfully, and then they told me after, like, we're probably going to suggest it anyways because he was getting so tight he wasn't getting enough oxygen and blood flow.
Can't take that chance.
And it still didn't really work either. That was fun. He came in probably twice to give me boost, and the second time he was like, I can't really do anything for you because he was on my back. So it was just a hot knife on my back. And the way he was positioned, too, was interesting. So that was fun. And I did have, like, the movie when they got rid of my, what is it? My water broke. They broke my water.
Okay.
It was like the movie.
Gushed.
Yeah. I mean, my doctor and my nurse went like...
Did they manually break it?
Yeah. Just because I was being pumped with so much fluids, but...
Yeah. Well, in general, especially if you're contracting, like, they will gush.
Yeah.
It's just more that, like, most women have to be manually ruptured.
Yeah.
Versus the spontaneous. But, yeah, it can gush.
He was positioned a little weird, so it was a hard time when they did cervical checks to feel him because he was, like, angled different, and my cervix was angled different, I guess.
Yeah, so the babies' heads, they can be, like, the chin down, chin up.
It was,
So
I
it depends.
think he was chin down.
It's called occipital presentation versus...
Yeah. So that made it harder, too, and I think that's why it was pretty much back laboring.
Well, I don't know if it makes you feel better or not, but both of mine were complete opposite of each other. My first one was absolutely horrible. My second one, he basically walked out. So don't let that discourage you in thinking that your labor's going to be like that with your next one, because it could be completely opposite.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I'm still...
Well, I mean-
that's why my family's surprised that I am still like, I might have another one. Well, obviously, we're waiting for a while, but
let you heal.
it's not going to, like, deter me because, I mean, hypertension is so... It's so common in your first pregnancy, so...
Yeah.
And I did gain a lot of weight. For me, I was 115, and my end weight was 168.
Okay,
So,
so like 50 pounds.
Yeah, which is a lot when my body has never seen that. But then at Monday morning, I was ready to push, but I had to stop because they only had one doctor on staff. And the doctor went to another lady, and she ended up not delivering her placenta. So then I had to go rush to surgery, so they stopped my Pitocin. So then I don't think I was able to start pushing until... I was ready to push at 8. I didn't start pushing until maybe 2. Yeah, and I had to wait because they had to gradually put the Pitocin back up so I have contractions. So that was a lot. It was very emotional, though, when he did plop on my chest, and I don't know how he fit in there, honestly.
Oh, isn't that, yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely scrunched in there.
Yeah.
But
Well, my story actually is that, so besides like kind of happening very natural, because I had twins, there's a chance, and again, I'm choosing to do vaginally. I had to deliver in the operating room, which isn't very like warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
Only one person can come in, and my husband's in a bunny suit, and
How many people do you want in there with you?
I don't want a bunch.
Well,
Like you're in the operating room, no one can be around, like versus like just being outside the door, and once the baby comes, you know what I mean? Like it's a different experience. They have to wait for me to go to recovery. Anyway, so when I was pushing Emma, who's my firstborn, out, she came out like limp, like stone like face, like no crying. And I knew, just because I've seen enough births, especially with cesarean section babies coming out, that her Apgar was not great. So actually she had an Apgar of 2. And I, of course, asked them, like, what's wrong with her? And they were like, oh, focus on the next baby. And I'm medical.
Yeah.
So, like,
You don't tell
telling
me to
me
focus.
don't, like, to, like, not focus. And so what I didn't know is they had rushed her thinking, they heard meconium, which is a baby's first bowel movement. But she was post-mec. So if they have mec inside the sac, they can get it in their lungs. So I think they were thinking initially, so they went to intubate her, and then they were like, no. So they intubated her, didn't intubate her. Anyway, they ended up rushing her to the nursery. Of course, then I'm like, fine, if you're not going to tell me what's wrong with my kid, I'll do the next one. She came out perfect, Apgars of 8 and 9, and was perfectly fine. My husband got to hold her, and my husband left with them. I did have to have some stitches. So I was still in the operating room. Both my babies are gone. I only got to hug with Ella for a second. And then Emma had to stay in special nursery. Thankfully, she did really well. I jokingly wish I really do wish I'd given her like a flower for her middle name, because she literally got some fluids and perked right up. But when my husband showed up in the nursery, the nurse that went with him asked the nurse caring for Emma, oh, how's the twin A doing? Not knowing my husband was the father, and was like, not good. Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Know
so
your
she
audience.
wasn't doing right. So my husband was like freaking out. Anyway, eventually she was doing so well that they actually like she was only supposed to come for breastfeeding, and they let her stay with me for like 45 minutes, and she did great. But my husband was scared of her for the first like 4 weeks. He kept thinking she was gonna like die spontaneously. He also let her roll off the bed. He was convinced she'd have head trauma and be dumb. She's actually like top 3% of her class. Very smart. But I mean, I would say like that was frustrating that that they kind of like downplayed what was happening. I would have rather, as somebody who likes to be informed, I would have been like, her Apgars are a little bit low. This is what was going to happen. We'll update you. Like, don't focus on the next baby. Okay, fine. I'll just sit here and push fast. Like,
I'm thankful my nurses were the 2 nurses I had pretty much the whole time, which was great. So my night nurse and my day nurse were the whole way through
You saw
my
the
labor.
whole gamut by being there so long.
Yeah, I was there for 5 days in the hospital, even after labor, because of the
Wow.
mag. And even the 24 hours, I still couldn't eat food, too.
Yeah.
I had to be liquid, and that was terrible. It was basically every hour I was getting checked up on between him and me.
And you can't rest in the hospital.
No.
well,
no.
how did you feel like that affected your bonding with Kai initially, like in the hospital, being like on mag, and like I guess what I'm asking is, for me, I don't believe in instant love. Like, I'm not gonna love somebody by love at first sight. I'm definitely like a much more like analytical person, and so like my daughters came out, and I was like, okay, I'm responsible for you, so you've been the one that's been in there. Like, I'm glad you're not dead. I'm glad you lived. Like, let's do this together. Like, I definitely took me, I would say, a full month where I felt like I was in do my job mode versus like in love with my baby mode. So sometimes having delays in being able to bond with your children can affect like the mother baby bond. Did you feel that way at all?
No, as soon as he got plopped on my chest, I was like, holy shit, one. And I mean, I don't know if it was like love, but like, wow, like I created a life. Like, this is crazy.
That is amazing.
And then
Yeah.
I think when he latched right away, like no problems, that's when I felt it. I was like, oh my God, like this is my baby.
Yeah.
And seeing my husband cry after too was a really awesome feeling too, which I didn't think, like seeing him become a dad. I'm like tearing up thinking about it. Still emotional.
Yeah.
It doesn't go
only
away.
been 9 months.
Let me tell you.
I'm not an emotional person.
I don't remember Mark crying. I don't think I cried.
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
It was love at first sight.
And I lost
it
a lot
was
of
for
blood.
You were. I can remember because I remember my daughter Megan saying when they gave her Wesson, kind of like you, she was just kind of like, can you get him off of me right now? I just need a minute to myself.
Yeah.
And not you. Once he came out, you'd never let go.
No.
We had to fight to get time with the boys where Megan's like, yeah.
Why did we
take it.
invite her to this podcast?
Sorry, I know.
I felt the same way though.
Yeah.
so,
No,
yeah,
I mean, but I think
exactly.
that it's important, like, you know, again, well, I don't want to get into the science of it, but oxytocin when you breastfeed actually helps with bonding. So, yeah, I think that, you know, I think in some ways as a new mother, I assumed that instant love was going to happen, but I know my personality and I'm just always wary of every relationship, even my own child. And it's not like I didn't feel successes. It's not like I didn't feel responsibilities. I loved my daughters today, my daughters are probably my two favorite humans. Like, I just am so proud of them. They really are amazing. Maybe I'll have them on this podcast sometime so they can talk about how amazing I am. But
Make
no,
sure
I'm
you
kidding.
take them
I know.
for a nice gift before you
Yeah.
bring them on, though.
Yes, exactly. I
It
will
is
buy
a roller
their
coaster
love.
ride that you're getting ready to enter into with
I
those
know.
teenage years. Because talk about instant love when they're born.
Yeah.
There was many times I fell out of love with my kids.
Yeah, I mean, I have those conversations even with my children now. I say, I will always love you, but I do not like you right now.
Right.
And I think that that's something like we have to, again, look at your children and say, listen, my love's unconditional, but what you're doing right now is not a likable trait. And
Yeah.
this is not somebody that I didn't raise you this way. I don't want to associate with somebody this way. If you're going to treat me this way, like, because we need them to be able to set those boundaries for themselves, right?
Yeah.
There's
Anyway,
not always a halo walking around on top of them.
no.
Believe me, especially the eras that you're coming into now with teenagers.
That's not this conversation.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about how great they are right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, so did you feel instant love with your kids?
I'll be honest with you. I was so sick with my pregnancy with Megan that no, I just was glad it was over.
Yeah.
I just was glad it was over. And with Christopher, they nicked an artery, and I had to be put to sleep right away. As soon as the C-section was over, as soon as he was out, they put me under. So I didn't have that. And then when I was in, I could not have, even though he was healthy and safe, I couldn't have him with me because I was in and out so much. So I feel like I missed the first 2 days of his life.
Yeah.
So I can't really attest to that instant bond. I just was like focused on getting healthy, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, in both cases.
yeah, but I do know, listening to Megan talk and my daughter Megan talk, the difference in their responses. Now, with my daughter Megan has 4.
Yeah,
so,
just in case anyone's confused, Paula has a daughter named Megan.
Yeah.
But then Paula's son decided to marry a girl named Megan. No, he did not marry his sister.
Yeah, he asked her,
So-
he said, how do you feel about changing your name? And she said, I don't mind taking your last name. He goes, no, I mean your first name because it's
So they usually refer, like Billy said, that's how I hear it, is this is May May.
Yeah.
And then there's Megan. But now it's Megan with different last name. I guess we don't want to talk about last names, but different last names. But again, the original Megan is back, you know, because
don't let Megan,
Same
the
last
original
name.
Megan, hear you say that.
yeah.
But no, so I can't attest to the instant love because my situation with the C-section and the recovery was just different. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was definitely like I felt responsibility. I felt like a huge sense of, I don't want to say a burden, but that nobody is going to care for them unless I do it.
Yeah.
And so that's the feeling I had. Now, whether or not that feels like instant love or not, like, I mean, I guess you wouldn't want to care for something you don't care about.
I definitely felt that too.
Yeah.
Of like, what am I gonna do?
I just remember being wheeled out in a wheelchair, and it's just Gary and I. We didn't have a whole community like my family's very blessed to have now. And I'm like, no, they're just going to let us leave with this baby? I don't know what to do with it.
Even
you know?
with the community, you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're just leaving?
Well, it goes back to that,
What?
like, you think, like that, and that's the other thing. There's so many sayings about having children that I think is actually wrong. First off, the idea that, like, I don't want to sleep like my baby because my daughters needed to be swaddled, swayed, shushed like sucking, like
Yeah.
all the S's. I don't know how many there were, 5, 7, 12. I don't know. They needed all the S's
Yeah.
to fall asleep.
Yeah, the sleeping like a baby thing is not
a thing.
No, it's not a
No.
thing.
And
I would-
also, never wake a sleeping baby.
No.
Unless your child is emaciated and needs to be like woken to gain weight, leave your baby to sleep, because you know what happens when you wake them up? They don't go back to sleep. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions about like what to expect with a baby. Again, like you're kind of learning, like sometimes there's refluxing, sometimes there's tongue tied, sometimes like your baby, you know, needs these special conditions to fall asleep. I worked, so I walked around and worked during the day. So my babies were swayed to sleep all day long. So my daughters stayed awake at night and slept during the day. So I had to turn their clocks around. All they wanted to do was be up all night, and all I wanted to do was sleep. So, you know, they don't even have that. It doesn't matter if you breastfeed one time, one day, 1 month, like that little bit that you're giving that child matters so much.
Absolutely.
And so don't disregard. Don't be like, again, don't set these expectations of mother you are going to be. I'm going to breastfeed for 2 years. I'll tell you right now, I don't care that the pediatricians recommend I would have never, if my child can ask for the boob, I was done. Okay.
The teeth,
The
I was
teeth,
done.
yeah,
I would
the
pump,
moment-
but they're not on latching on me. Absolutely not.
Your kid bites you one time, and yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. But God bless women who do. Like, there's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
women who do. I'm
Yes.
just telling you, like, if my child walks up and says, I want tit, I'm not okay with that. I'm not comfortable with that. That was my preference. But all the moms who do it, like, cool, like, that's great. But that's not the mom I'm going to be. I never was. I did 8 months, and I was damn proud of that. That was good. I thought 6 months, and so I exceeded that expectation. I mean, I secretly wish I'd made it to a year, but my daughters took up solids. My kids were
I think twins
fat
would
babies.
definitely be a different dynamic.
Yeah,
Right,
different
'cause
dynamic.
Right, because you know,
breastfeeding that
8 months
long.
times 2
Your
is
body
really
only
16
produces so
months,
much.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
I lost so much weight breastfeeding. I ate a pan of brownies one day. Like your calorie consumption breastfeeding is insane.
It's ridiculous. You don't
Insane.
realize how much it is until it hits you, and you're like sitting there and you're like, I am starving.
Yeah.
Like I can put down 3 steaks, 2 baked potatoes, cake. I can eat just about
Yeah.
anything in sight.
I gave up breastfeeding
And you have the
though, and
space
gained,
for it in your stomach.
Yeah.
now.
Exactly.
yeah. Your abdomen suddenly has all this
Yeah,
space.
it's great.
But I gave up breastfeeding and I gained like 5 pounds within like the first few weeks. So yeah, like,
I'm a little
consider
nervous
that.
for that.
Yeah. And I do know mothers actually who held on to the weight while they're breastfeeding. Like their bodies are afraid to give the weight up because it helps them produce. So it's not everyone's reality that like when you're breastfeeding, you have this huge like slim down.
Yeah.
But man, did it help for me personally. I was probably the skinniest I ever was, except for semaglutide. So moving into like, you know, the reality of having it all, I think like you had said early on, how you never thought you'd be a stay-at-home mom, and how like you're giving that up. I think that was kind of something I mentioned earlier about mourning the loss of like who you were before children. Having that moment, like, you know, a core memory for me, saying to my husband, you know, I don't want to go home, because I say this all the time. I almost didn't have kids. I really loved the 10 years I had with my husband without children. That I could have seen my life being a motherless human. But at the same time, since I've had my twins and they are amazing and haven't ruined it yet, I'm like Paula keeps threatening. I can't imagine my life without them. I'm actually a better person. Like your child looks at you and really
they do make
shows-
you a better person for sure.
Are you saying that?
No,
based
I'm
on
saying
your-
as a mother, I think every mother feels that way, that my
Yeah.
kids made me a better
Well, they
person.
mimic you. The things they do, like you don't even know stuff that you say, expressions you make until your kid does them back at you, and you're like, oh, "That was me. I do that." Like it's kind of embarrassing sometimes. Like you realize it. One of my favorite stories. I'm gonna throw my husband under the bus. He uses the phrase "damn it" a lot, and so he would be like, "Damn it," and so he pulls up because he would drop our daughters off. This is kind of getting into like how you make working work. For me, my husband and I were both working parents. I worked in the operating room, had to be there for surgical starts, 7:30 was usually when you start. And so my husband didn't have to be to work like normal office hours. So he would, you know, get up. I'd have the whole bag packed. Please believe, you know, he just had to grab the kids and grab the bag and drop them off. But anyway, he shows up the babysitter. lets one out of the car seat. She starts doing laps around the car. The babysitter walks out, and she's literally repeating over and over again. She goes going, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, just doing laps around the car.
When the little one do that.
And then thankfully my sitter was like an amazing human. She's like, I cried when she moved, and I cried when we moved away from her. She just, like, you're talking about having support systems. I did not have family here as well, but man, she was amazing. But anyway, thankfully she was laughing at my child running around saying damn it. And so it's in that moments where they do stuff and you're like, their first
Yeah,
word.
that is my kid.
I'm terrified of that. I'm trying to coach my husband to not say fucking bitch when he does something wrong.
Wait, that's what he says when he does something
And
wrong?
he's really aggressive.
Has he ever said it and like you're right there and you're like, it's not me, I'm not the fucking bitch?
Yeah, he'll be like doing like in the kitchen something, he drops something or almost cuts himself. Fucking bitch, like aggressively. I'm like, you need to start filtering that out now, so it's not a habit anymore.
Yeah, maybe cheesy biscuit or something.
I'm like, because that's the last thing I want him to repeating.
And it's your environment that the kids are in too. I know back in the day, my husband was into WWF wrestling, and bastard was a big word in that, And when you watch your 2-year-old running around chasing the 8-month-old saying, "Get back here, you bastard," you're like, okay, we gotta take that off the TV now. So they are little mockingbirds.
They are.
We're fighting with Thomas right now because he sees his dad lick his mom in the face as a sign of affection. So now Thomas thinks that's a great thing, and you're sitting there holding him, and he'll all of a sudden look up at you all loving and go, lick your cheek, and I'm like, I know he thinks, so.
I'm like, buddy, we don't lick other people. Gotta stop doing that. But the other day he's like trying to lick his cousins, and I'm like, you can't lick your cousins, that's just not acceptable. But you can lick mom and dad if you really want.
Oh my God.
Conversations you never think you have to have
Yeah.
with another human
Yeah.
being. Stop licking people.
Yeah. Stop throwing things in the toilet. Don't play in the toilet. Like,
Yeah.
you just don't.
You don't think about the conversations that children have with each other too. This is kind of a terrifying story, but it's the things you think you've given your kids all the information they need for situations. So we went to a pool party. We told our kids they could not go in the pool without one of the adults because we know how to swim and they need help swimming. Well, the other little girl convinced Ella that she could help her swim. No, I can help you swim. So then actually what happened is they ended up practically drowning each other, and where no adult was around, thankfully somebody heard it. When they say drowning silent, thankfully the one child could swim, so she kept kind of bobbing up. Anyway, that's a terrifying story. You'd think you did all the precautions. So anyway, you don't realize the conversations you have to have until,
Yeah.
it's a little scary. But anyway, so how is being a perfect mother, like especially for you guys who are having are new moms? Facebook was around. My generation, the .edu emails, we are the ones who did that. Sorry. So there was like a lot of that perfectionism that's kind of put out there on social media, especially right now. Everyone is like an Instamommer, an Instagrammer. I mean, people who are raising chickens and have organic foods. And there's a lot of, like having 25 kids and somehow doing it all. And, I don't think that's everyone's reality. Never everyone's suited for that, but also what's being put out there obviously is filtered, right? So whether or not, someone comes from a wealthy family, so maybe they can do that because they're being financially supported, be able to do that versus people trying to make it work. I definitely felt the pressure to be a career woman, a fit mom, a sexy wife, a nurturer, and I don't think about being an Instagram-worthy homemaker or anything like that because I could care less about that. But I do know that during COVID, I didn't work for 6 weeks, and my husband, I'm not kidding you, was the happiest he's ever been having me at home. So he's never like says it, but I definitely know that, like, because he's taken up the role of partner in our lives. So I think it's very different, like from what you experienced. I think our generation, because I feel like even when my husband was doing it, it was still not as common. Now all I ever see is dad pushing the stroller, right? And like mom, like,
I don't think Gary picked up the kids until they were walking because he was just didn't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm very blessed that my kids were raised and born, I feel, before all this background noise that they go, because I really do think that all the Instagram moms and all the Facebook posts, Megan's like, how were you just not scared all the time? I'm scared all the time. And I'm like, because nobody's putting that out there in the universe when you guys were little. You guys just have way too many people in your face right now telling you what can go wrong, things that I would have never thought of as a mom.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think that, again, part of this episode was really breaking that perfect mom illusion, right? Or delusion.
Delusion is the correct term.
Because it's not fair to moms. It's not fair to like what I always say, frustrations come when reality and expectations don't match. And so if you, so like again with me, falling instantly in love with my children was not, I didn't do that. That wasn't my reality. So of course I felt like something was wrong with me. So now I know I was perfectly fine. It forced other sides of me to work out. Am I getting my picture taken? So what about you guys, like who have that in your face? Do you guys feel pressure? Do you?
Sometimes, yeah. Especially as a stay-at-home mom, like you do tend to sometimes go down the rabbit hole of the social media, and you see all these moms like they have 2 kids and they have time to work out and they have time to do this and that, and it makes you like sit there and think like, what is wrong with me? But at the same time, then I take a step back and I'm like, well, what you see is not always what it is. It's just like the whole Ruby Frank thing. I mean, she was like,
Oh, you have.
Yeah.
so
She was an Instagram mom.
She was an Instagram mom, and basically she made it look like her kids and disciplining and blah 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 all this stuff. But really, she was like locking them in rooms,
tying them to
beds,
Not feeding
not feeding them, all this stuff. Yeah,
Wait, she was an Instagram mom?
Yes.
YouTuber.
YouTuber and everything, talking about like how you
Her
properly
series
discipline.
was what, 8 Passengers was the series
Yeah.
that she
Oh my
had.
gosh.
Yeah. So you see that, and then I like snap back to reality, and I'm like, what I see is not what it truly is, and I need to like be okay with the fact that, okay, I wake up in the morning, I may not get out of my pajamas for the day. I may not even leave the house.
Just so you know, that's a good day for me now. If I don't have to put a bra on and I can stay at home, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
I think
So
one
just
of
so
the-
you know.
One of the biggest transformations I saw watching May raising the boys is she was so OCD and just nothing could be out of place. And I was like, these poor kids are just going to be. And now I go in their house and there's toys everywhere and there's food on the counters
Let it
and everything.
go,
And I'm like, I'm so proud of her.
Control
because,
what you can control.
Exactly. I've
And
been
let go
so
of what you
proud with
can't.
that.
Yeah.
Well, and that's like the hard part, because I've always been very independent. I never really relied on anybody. And to go from working from 15 to the point of having my children and then having to completely stop that and relying on my husband to actually be the provider is terrifying. And it's like, okay, I understand he's doing this because this is what's best for our kids, but at the same time, you as a mother, as a wife, as an individual, you completely lose who you are altogether. And some days it's a huge struggle. Some days I'm like, I wake up and I just want to cry because I'm like, I don't know how to be a mom, a wife, and
Still be Megan.
still be me. And even then you're like, well, who am I? Because who am I as an individual now? Because I do take on so many different other roles. And so you look at yourself in the mirror and it's like, okay, well, today I woke up, brushed my teeth, did my skincare, and I don't have my pajamas on. I'm winning.
Yeah. And the kids are alive.
And the kids are alive.
They didn't die.
So it's just, it is a struggle, because you do see all these moms out there that are like, oh, I'm going to the gym and I'm taking my kids with me and all this stuff. And I'm like, I am lucky that I'm like even functioning at this point some days. Because I like, you know, I have regret for myself. Like, am I doing a disservice to myself for not working? Because, you know, I do love what I do. But at the same time, I don't want anybody else to raise my children. I truly don't. Like, it's hard for me, and she knows, it's hard for me to even give an hour or two of leaving my children.
Because I'm like, you guys go take time for yourself. And she's like,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't trust them. It's just the fact that me personally, something that I deal with is, again, mom guilt of just leaving my kids with somebody. You know, I see other people that, you know, their kids are a couple months old and they're taking vacations with their spouse and just leaving their kid. And I'm like, how do you do that? Because I personally cannot do that. Like, having to go away from my child for an hour sometimes is just like anxiety ridden for me, because I'm the mother. I'm the person who's supposed to be taking care of my child, not anybody else.
Yeah. But that's an expectation you've put on yourself, right?
Exactly.
I know.
So just coming from devil's advocate, which is actually a great kind of discussion to have, I actually was career driven. I already mentioned that I didn't plan on having kids. So as soon as I had my children, I never thought about staying at home. However, I cried the first 3 days I went back to work. And then on the third day, I was sitting in the OR and I was like, this is easier. Going to work is easier than being at home with my children. So again,
Well, I did try going back to work.
Yeah.
And I even tried working from home, and she would come over and Thomas would be downstairs. It's not like I had to leave. Not like she took him out of my house, and I would be sitting upstairs crying just
Yeah.
because my child is downstairs and I'm not with my child.
yeah.
It just broke my heart. So
Yeah.
I'm like,
I went through the crying. I just got over the crying. But I also think it's important that, one, we go through phases our whole lives. Like who I was when I was 22 versus 30 versus 40, and now, you know, entering to my mid 40s. I've always been different. I'm different. And so this is just the Megan you are now. So
Yeah.
rather than being like, well, who is Megan? Well, this is who Megan is. And when your children don't actually want to be with you, even if you want to be with them, you're going to figure out who that Megan is too.
Yeah.
And I think kind of I think a lot of times motherhood is about accepting this is where we're at.
Yeah.
This is who I am right now. But also not going down the rabbit hole per se of, I mean, and again, accepting the regret, right? Like, so again, I read all the books and did all the studies about working mothers because I had to justify that I wanted to work. Because it's not like I didn't hear like somebody else is raising your child. There's many people who have had those conversations and made those comments to me. Mark and I were very lucky that we only had somebody watching the girls about 3 days a week, and then eventually got down to only 2 days a week. And then honestly, by 4, we sent them off to preschool, and then it was just easier, you know. So, and also I can't teach my children because I have no patience. So I had to send them off to school because they were never gonna learn the alphabet, and I probably would have started saying "damn it" a lot more. But again, this is it's not. I definitely would say I would have had guilt, but I also know a lot of like the benefits, especially now that my children are older, that my kids like are trying to like sell stuff on Shopify. They're like, Mom, I want to open an account and I want to be an entrepreneur like you are. And I'm here like, I can't do another business, even if it's yours, because I'm still going to have to run it. So, and I also, you know, and Emma's been looking at like, you know, universities for every job she's wanted for the last like 4 years. She's very ambitious. Like I said, she's doing great in school. And so I see benefits as well. But at the same time, if both of them decided to be stay-at-home moms, like I would be okay with it, you know? I will say that I grew up with a broken family, and I wanted to be a career person because I never wanted to depend on a man. So if a man ever showed up at my man showed up at my door, or I showed up at my door and another woman was there, for whatever reason, if our relationship ended, I was gonna be like, bye, I don't need you. I chose you, I want you. This is my choice. For me. Now I've accepted that like if he leaves, I'm gonna be like, fuck, I gotta do this by myself. I can't do this by myself. Because he just is my partner. It's not even about a financial. It really is about the partnership we have. I really can't do this. I would probably lose my mind.
and I agree with that, because a lot of part of mine would be the same, or is the same way. Like, oh, what if something were to happen? Then I could take care of myself. But then it's like, now I have 2 kids and I'm not working, so how would I go back and all this stuff? So then you get like, not that I ever thought or ever will think that my husband is going to step out on me in any type of way.
Well, you know what, you know.
Yeah, he knows the wrath.
Because like Gary will show up.
I think that's a good thing that Jackie has going on for her. Has a good compromise. You're able to come back to work, but you're only coming back part-time. And that is a great compromise, I feel, because you still get that adult time and you can still be Jackie the esthetician, but then you're still mommy at home, and I love that for you.
Yeah, I still have guilt for it though. I love what I do, and I'm part of me is ready to come back, but a part of me is like, I don't want to come back. I never thought, same as you, I thought I'd be the working mom and be happy with that. But now I'm like, so when are you getting another raise that I can stay home?
Yeah.
And he feels that way too, which is kind of nice. Like, he wishes I could stay home, just seeing all I do now. But I have that control issue as well. The house has to be like together because I'm staying home. Like,
Yeah.
what else am I doing? Like, he's working,
think
he's
that.
providing.
Yeah.
I know.
And- yeah.
But I have a really great partner too that helped me accept that. He's like, throughout the day he works from home, so throughout the day sometimes he'll come out and be like, you're doing such a great job, because you'll hear him screaming for a couple hours, and I'm like just trying to get him to sleep because now he's overtired and I can't get anything done. He's like, just, it's okay, like, you're taking care of a child, that's a lot in itself. But we also are going to have to put him in daycare, which I'm not excited for either. So I have a lot of guilt for that, and that was the whole reason why we moved back home, was to have family. And we thought we were going to have childcare taken care of, and that didn't work out for us. So that's been accepting that as well. And maybe my mom will go to part-time and she'll be able to take care of him. But I'm not looking forward to that day of 5 days a week having him in daycare so I can
Yeah.
work full-time.
Well,
So we
that
can
was-
have a life.
Right. But I mean, that's kind of the balance though, right?
Exactly.
Like you technically can make that choice because you have
Yeah.
this really awesome boss who will let you work whatever hours you want.
But we want to live our life,
Yeah,
and we want
yeah.
to be able to travel and eat out and have, like, just go on, like, to Busch Gardens and not have to worry about, well, this is not really in our budget.
Yeah.
So
And that is
Yeah.
a sacrifice that you do have to make.
Yep.
And I mean, I totally, that was never, I say that was never an option for me because my husband was a second class in the Navy at the time. We did not have the money if we wanted to have anything for me to be a stay-home mom. And I cannot be more proud of the girls that are in my world and my son-in-law who are like, we're going to make these sacrifices, we're going to make it work, you're going to stay home, because
Yeah.
they just don't have the acceptance or whereabout that they would feel good about putting them in daycare.
Yeah.
And by the time they did put them in daycare, the girls would be working for free anyway, because then they're
the
just
cost
paying
of
for
childcare
daycare.
is
It's just
expensive.
Yeah.
astronomical.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
We're spending more than our mortgage on daycare when we
Yeah.
do put him in, which
When-
is crazy.
I tell people I got pregnant with the girls like as soon as I graduated my master's, and my student loan debt per month was a mortgage. Then there's my mortgage, and there's my child care. So I basically paid 3 mortgages a month
Yep.
between the 3. So even though I had a good career, I definitely was in a lot of student loan debt. So staying at home wasn't really an option for me. I could have worked less, but I definitely felt, thankfully in healthcare especially, in a lot of different careers, I could really work my schedule around it. And so that made a big difference for me. But not everyone has those options. And I do see a lot more moms, but it's so much. So I don't know if you guys know this historically, but women demanding to get in the workforce and work actually puts more money into the economy, which then forces women to have to work in
Yep.
order to afford to live.
Yeah.
So it's like a double-edged sword. We wanted the freedom, we wanted the income, but now we've actually driven up the cost of living. And that actually, for those people who stay at home, I don't know how they do it. And I will tell you, I have 2 kids because I didn't feel like we could, even though, again, we did well, I felt the cost to having a third was going to be too much, you know?
A third is a definite game changer, because now you need the bigger car and you need the bigger house and you need, so
And
they're
we've
debating
had-
now about having a third, and they don't want to do anything permanent so that they do have that option. But of course, I would love them to have a third, but that's not my choice to make.
Well, and
But-
that is the thing. Like we've talked about it, and it's like, okay, well, if we have a third, we have to get a bigger house. We do have to get a bigger car. I would definitely have to go back to work, because there's no way that just on my husband alone, we would be able to afford me to still stay home with the boys, or boy and girl, or whatever.
Right.
So it's like, it's a whole different like aspect. And then it's like, well, do I feel comfortable enough with that? So you like weigh the decision. Is it worth having another kid, or is it not? And it's just it's back and forth. And sooner or later, yes, I would love to go back to work, even if it is part-time, which is great working in the medical field. But at the same time, I personally, my husband and I have talked about it, want to homeschool our children. So
Oh gosh.
Good for
COVID
you.
taught me that was not going to be the case. Yeah. Actually, it's funny because Paula's daughter, Megan, I feel like has my personality. So when I found out when she was having a third and then a fourth, I was like, who are you? We are not alike. And then when I heard she was homeschooling, I was like, yep, it's official.
Yeah.
But I feel like she does have my personality. I just don't know who.
She's loving it.
I know.
My
it's
husband and I
crazy.
have already talked about if we even have a second one, because that's our discussion now because of childcare. He's getting a vasectomy right away. Like, no. No,
Yeah.
no
Done.
chances. We are not having
Yeah.
three.
Yeah.
That it's.
And we're
I don't
already
know how
having
y'all
to
do
get
it with childcare. I
yeah,
really don't.
we're already having
So
to look into a bigger house. But that's another reason is like I do want to go to work because we need a bigger house. And if we want to have two, even having one, we're growing out of this house pretty quickly.
Just
Yeah.
so you know, I went to your house and I told you this. I was like, you do realize your house is exactly my house. And I had my twins until they were 6 in that house. So,
Yeah, we're not in like a super rush, but we're
and your
we're
location, I
ready.
didn't realize how like easily accessible like to the highway from there.
Yeah, that's
and-
the hard part
yeah.
about moving. It's trying to keep that accessibility
Yeah.
coming out here and just anywhere, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's partly why where I live. But so I guess how about from a grandmother perspective, like because now you have a different perspective. Because I jokingly tell my daughters, I'm only letting you live so I can be a grandmother. Because I recognized pretty early on, like the burdens of motherhood. There's so much, again, guilt, expectations, demands from all different perspectives. It was very hard to embrace the moments. And everyone says, oh, enjoy it now. It goes so fast. And it does.
It
But you know
does.
what? No matter how many times I heard it, no matter how many times I tried to enjoy it, it just was I just don't feel like again, that's another expectation. I don't know if it's real. I don't know if you can really enjoy it. I feel like, you're wishing your kids are eating solids so you can stop buying formula. You're wishing your kids were out of diapers and potty trained so you can stop buying diapers. I feel like you're wishing them out of every phase. And then suddenly you look back and you're like, damn, that went fast. I didn't get to enjoy it. And now, you're getting to
Absolutely.
enjoy the grandparent.
Yeah, I
phase.
thought for sure that I could never love anything as much as I love my kids. I just was always in awe of my kids until I had grandkids. Now I'm like, the kids can just go away and just let me have the grandkids because I do get to enjoy them. I get to have all the fun. I don't
Yeah.
have to discipline. I feel guilty when I do sometimes I'll lose a little patience and I'll snap at them. I have two that are very close. The middle and the youngest of my daughters is boys, and they just are constantly wrestling and picking and hitting and doing, and I'm just like, but I know they're being boys and this and that, and then I try to distract them. Let's play Uno. Let's do something to kind of calm them down, and then I feel guilty because I'm like, I shouldn't have snapped at them. They're just being little boys, but I am older now, and I not used to all that wrestling and pulling but I'll tell you, those little ones are my heartbeat. I love to tell the story. My oldest is 6, and he was talking to a friend one day, and he was talking about his ninny, and his ninny did this, his ninny did that, and the little girl goes, I don't have a ninny. He came home and he was so upset because everyone should have a ninny. And we had to explain, well, she probably has a grandma, or ninny is not a normal word for grandparent. But that just warmed my heart because he's like, everyone should have a ninny. And I'm like, they should.
Yeah. Paula is like a caregiver. Like she will show up at your house with soup post-surgery. She will show up with a cake for your birthday, even though you're going to have to do 60-something cases. Like you're like, I always say, I was like, Paula, like, I don't even think about doing that. Like you did it, you thought of it, then you did it. And I'm over here being like, huh? Like, what?
Well, I'll tell you, my son married a woman just like that. May's the same way. She shows her love with food and cooking and stuff like that. And so I do see a lot of myself in her, and I know she hates to hear that, but I do see a lot of myself in her.
Why do you hate to hear it?
I don't know.
Let's dive into that.
Nobody wants to hear that their son married
His mother?
His mother.
Well, how about his son married a carer and a nurturer like his mother?
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, so I'm very, very, very blessed.
He also has your name tattooed on him, so he's obsessed with his mother. So let's
Were
just be
you in
honest.
any of the births?
No. That was one thing that both of my girls said, that it was just between them and their spouse. And I completely,
Was yours the same, or is it just the two of you?
I thought it was going to be, because me and my mom have had a strained relationship, but throughout the whole pregnancy she's been amazing, and I called her in to be in the room, and
aw.
that was a really,
I bet
I
you
didn't
she
think-
was moved by that.
yeah, I didn't think it would be as special as it was, but it was really, really special to have that and have her there and to
See what you took away from me?
for her to see it, and she
I
was just
wasn't the one. I wasn't the one. Christopher
I'm
was the
teasing.
one that
No,
really
I
didn't.
I respected that.
I wanted.
He's like, this is my vagina. You can't see it.
I personally really did kind of want you and my mom in there, and especially my mom, just because she never had that opportunity. Even though my older brother has boys, he's pretty estranged from all of us. He never like lets my mom actually truly be a grandparent to those boys. So when I found out I was pregnant, like my mom moved from Washington State all the way here to be a part of their lives. And so I truly did want to give her that opportunity, but Christopher did not want anybody in the birthing room besides us. So I respected him for that. But I kind of do regret it a little bit, because I feel like wasn't kind of fair to the grandparents, but at the same time,
They
It
had
was-
their moment.
it was special for
Yeah.
us to, be able to have just that time between me and him and the boys, and have
Yeah.
that special moment of just
And they
like,
did. They delayed us coming back to visit till they had their
Yeah.
time alone, and I totally respected
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah, I mean, my when I was pregnant, or I found out I was pregnant, my mother-in-law had asked if she could be in the. She had cancer, so part of why we actually kind of rushed to have our kids so quickly after my schooling was that we knew that it was metastatic, so we knew we had limited time for her to have grandkids. And so anyway, I was okay with it, but then I found out I had twins and I had to deliver in the OR, so it wasn't an option. And it's
Yeah.
more like even to this day, like even in training, I'm like, oh, we need a Brazilian model. I was like, I'm here for it. Like I just don't I'm not shy
Well,
about it.
And it is funny because like when I did talk to my mom, like after the fact of giving birth, and my mom was like, I don't know if I truly could have actually been in there with you. She wanted to so bad, but afterwards she was like, I don't know if I could have, just to like see you in like pain.
because you're her baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
like,
Good point,
it,
yeah.
when you started really having the contractions like I did with Thomas, she was like, it really like, it got to me. She's like, I don't know if I could have sat there and watched you like be in
Go
pain.
through it, yeah.
My mom was kind of like that when she was in there, and then she kept asking me of like, I won't look, like, just look, who cares? Like,
A vagina is a vagina. Just go ahead,
like,
do
you
it.
gave birth to me.
Yeah.
It's allowed.
Actually, I will tell you, I told Mark, I was like, I don't want you to look down there.
Oh, he
That's-
did not.
Yeah, I was like, that's my joy hole. I want you to always see it as
Yes.
as your joy
See?
hole.
Yeah.
And if you see it, no, there is documentation of men who could not
Well,
see it the same.
and
I
that's what
didn't wanna,
Christopher said.
Like, yeah, I had the rest of my
Christopher-
life for my husband to like want to
was
sleep
up
with
here.
me. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
well, Christopher saw everything. The nurse made him. Christopher didn't want to see it, but after the fact of all of it, he's like, it doesn't change how I feel about you. I still find you sexy. I still want everything. He goes, it's actually kind of made me more appreciative of what you go through to have children and how your body even does all of that.
Yeah.
That is
So,
amazing when, like she said, that hit
But
the
how do
nail
you
on the-
know if you're that guy until you ruined
Yeah,
it?
and then it's too late.
well, and it's also like men that get jealous about their wives breastfeeding because their baby is,
Oh.
yeah, that is a thing.
it is
now.
a thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Men
I
get
mean, my
jealous
husband
because,
missed them. Like, he couldn't wait till I was done breastfeeding because he wanted, like,
To
he was,
help.
he's
Yeah.
a boob man. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know that till I was pregnant, but he's a
Same.
boob man. So he was excited to get him back, but he also, like, he helped, like,
Yeah.
bring the girls for breastfeeding and nighttime routines.
Yeah.
Like, he was,
Yeah.
it also, I just want to say for those people who do bottle feed, it is so much easier just to whip your boob out and feed your baby. There's no bottle to prep. There's no bottle to warm up. There's no bottle to clean. I always say that breastfeeding is actually easier and it's lazy mom work. Just so you know, that's my opinion.
is.
It is.
I
It's been rough when you have
Yeah.
like 6 bottles there and you're like, I don't have anything made either. And these are all dirty.
Yeah.
And it's Dr. Brown's bottles. So
It's like all
Yeah.
the pieces
there's
and the
5
parts.
pieces
Five
to freaking
yes,
clean.
yes.
Yeah.
I
But my
will
husband,
say.
even after the birth, because it was so long, just constant. You're so amazing. You're freaking superwoman. I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you're breastfeeding and you're still like, it makes, God, I'm so emotional.
I know. We had to
It
bring
doesn't
you
go
in,
away.
Like,
I'm
you're
10
still-
months.
Such a
no.
waste
And I know
now.
you don't
Still.
know that's not Jackie.
No.
She's
I don't
never.
cry
that
at
She's,
all.
she was more like me. Like she's stoic and like not an emotional person. She's
I'm
much more sensitive than I am.
So emotional. So let me tell you,
Yeah.
even at 10 months, like I cry over like the dumbest things. Like I'm watching like monkeys be delivered on National
cried when I
Geographic,
spilled
and I'm like,
milk.
oh my God, it's so precious.
I will say, yeah, going back to like so Sandy Hook happened when my daughters were little, and the first child that was mentioned to have been killed was a little girl with blonde hair. And I remember being like, I was obsessed with it. I kept like researching it. I wanted to know why this happened. I was like, my husband's like, you've got to stop. So when you are in the throes of like raising these children and trying to like make sure they're protected and understand everything that can be like dangerous for them, I mean, commercials, like, I mean, every single time someone talks about children, like when I had little ones, I did cry a lot more. Now that I'm older, it's more like I laugh. I'm like, I remember that. Oh, glad it's over. So it's a bit different. I feel like I'm past that phase somewhat, but there's just until you're a mother. That's why like there's like a Chesapeake moms group, and people are on there who aren't moms. And I'm like, I really appreciate this as like a place for women. Can we call it the Chesapeake Women's Club?
Yeah.
Because if they're not moms, I don't care if you want to be a mom, you try to be a mom, or you're a dog mom. None of those things are the same as being a mom. And it's not to disvalue those roles.
Yeah.
Is to say that there's something that happens biologically, but also like responsibility. When you, again, if like you have to negotiate with terrorists, it makes you a different person. So.
And back to like grandparents too. My mom was a really, really young mom and had not the best growing up. Other with my dad was like the kind of healthy-ish relationship, but they divorced when I was 2. Having her in the room and her being a grandparent now, she was like, this is amazing. I
She's
get to
learning
see
with
it
you.
through a different lens,
Yeah.
and that you're such a different mom than I was, and you're such a great mom, and you're ready for it where I was not ready, and I love it. She's like, I love being a grandparent. And she was not somebody that wanted to be a grandparent yet. She's like, I'm not ready. I still have more traveling. I'm like, you have more traveling. What? I'm the one giving birth and having the child. Like, you're the grandparent. You get to do all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
So they're already
And
planning
it is the fun
Yeah.
stuff.
planning to take him and do stuff with him already. So
Yeah.
it's been fun.
Well, hopefully you'll let them.
I am a little different in that aspect. I do we've already had date nights, so
Oh,
that's
you
been
have to
nice.
have that, and they do that.
They
do.
I mean, it's just they don't leave them
When
for the
you
weekend.
do have 2, it's harder to watch like 2 kids for an extended period of time. Like I really didn't like Mark being gone because I would just get so overwhelmed, and I just when it's nice to hand them off. I was like, my husband's boss said to him when we were expecting, I have one bit of advice for you. Don't shake the baby. And of course you laugh.
Oh, but
Until that moment, you are
Until you-
so stressed out, so sleep deprived that like literally you have to go put the baby down, shut the door, go stick your head in a pillow and scream and cry because you're just overwhelmed. And so to have the wherewithal to identify that that's where you're at and put a child down and walk away from it,
Yep.
I think, it's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah.
I think it's very easy to get frustrated, I mean,
my husband and I've said all the time, every single time, like when we're to that point, he's like, I truly understand where parents can get to the point of shaking baby. And it's true, but at the same time, like you understand, like, okay, I need to step away.
Right.
Because if I don't want to do any like harm to my child.
right.
But it's so true. Like and the problem is like they can't communicate with you. You're trying to communicate with them and nobody understands a damn thing.
Yeah.
And so you're just like so frustrated because I mean, even now, like my 2-year-old understands. He truly does. He acts like he doesn't sometimes, but he understands. And it's just frustrating because it's like I'm trying to put the 10-month-old down. He's in there just yapping away, being as loud as he can. And I'm like, shut up, get out. And, you're like, you don't want to yell. You don't want to be mean. And you don't want to like project that onto them. But at the same time, like you're just so frustrated because nobody's listening to you. everything's going up in flames, it feels like.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like,
Every time I tried to cook dinner, something would happen. Like my kids, ended up painting with their fingers with poop on a dresser, ended up eating containers of Desitin, flooded a bathroom by like turning on the tub and leaving it on while I'm turds on top of random things during potty training. Like every time I tried to cook, because the words that they are quiet, they are up to something is absolutely true.
100%.
You would think, oh God, they're being quiet. No, they are about to destroy something. Run as fast as you can. Stop it. But I do want to kind of get into like maybe a little bad mom moments. Like speaking of like, not shaking the baby. Obviously it's a good mom moment. Oh, hello, Mike. Sorry, Mike. Lady. All right. When it comes to like, are there funny stories like besides my daughter running on the car screaming "damn it," or my husband letting the child roll off the bed? Are there moments like now that you look back at and can laugh about?
Oh, absolutely. I know with my son, he loves to tell the story. He had gotten into trouble at school, and the next morning we were still reminiscing about it, and I'm like by myself. Gary was deployed, and I'm like trying to deal with him, and I'm like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. Argumentative, and I was so frustrated with him. I pulled him close to me, and I don't know if he thought I was gonna kiss him or what, but he turned his head like this, and I bit him in the cheek. And he will still tell people how his mom bit him. I bit him right there. I was so frustrated with him, but then I felt really, really bad. So yeah, we all go through those kind of things.
Yeah, they're regret/funny moments.
Yeah.
I was trying to deal with the girls, and our cat had like excessive like earwax, and he ended up like beating his ears so much he ended up with this like serum hematoma, and so he was in a cone. He wasn't supposed to be let out, and I have these two kids running around, and they end up opening the door, and the cat sprints out. My husband isn't home, and I'm not kidding you, I like hit the wall, slid down to the floor, and I was like, your dad's gonna kill me, and the cat got out. I was like losing my mind. I remember like, I don't even want to say like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and even just recently we talked about it. Mom, remember that time like you like slid down the like wall and like started crying because the cat got out? And I was like, yeah.
I wish I didn't bite him in
You
the
have
face.
no idea.
You have no idea. Exactly. Like those moments were just like, I mean, I just had enough. I was at my wit's end. Yeah.
that's like
Well,
the
now
first
I
time
feel
I
bad.
left after having Tyler, I went down to go see my mom. It was the first time I had ever left with both boys. And I wasn't paying attention because I was trying to get the kids in the car. And our cat, and little backstory, it's technically Christopher's cat.
Yeah.
So let's not put that on me.
Disabled.
He is very disabled, a little on the side. And I wasn't paying attention, and he got out. And I'm like almost to my mom's, and Christopher's like, somebody on the Facebook page posted about Kevin getting out. And I said, oh, Kevin's not out. He doesn't know like what he's doing. And sure enough, he had gotten out, and I felt so horrible. And I was like, I'm horrible. I can't even take care of 2 kids and get them out and take care of the cat. And it like all built up, and I was like crying, and
Yeah.
it's just frustrating. And like about a month ago, the boys were just like on a tear. Both of them were. Teeth coming in. Both of them had teeth coming in. Growth spurts going on. Sleep regressions, all of this. And I just was like having it. And I went down to my mom's, and I was like, I need like 30 minutes. Can I please go to the grocery store and get some groceries? Went to the grocery store. I was like, okay, there's like a food truck right next to it. So I grabbed something from the food truck, and I walked out of my car, locked my car, not thinking about it. Keys were in it, car running. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Thank goodness the kids weren't in there, but I just like had this horrible mom breakdown because I was like, what if my kids were in the car? Well, now I can't even go anywhere because what am I supposed to do with my kids? Like, how am I supposed to get home? And it was just,
Yeah. It's like all I wanted was 30 minutes to myself and just stop at a food truck and like treat myself. And now here I am stranded.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like that she said that she won't follow me into a minefield. So that's my life. Like my life is a minefield.
Yeah.
that's how it feels.
Yeah. It does. Yeah. You don't have any moments yet, do you?
No, not yet. I had one like guilty thing because I like everything doesn't have to be scheduled. So we had a lunch with his grandma for her 80th, and it wasn't like on our schedule. So I was like hoping he'd just stay asleep for the whole thing, and he wasn't, because he's a baby. And we had a
You
bottle.
didn't have that conversation with him before you went? You didn't tell him I need you to do these things?
And we had a bottle, like we knew he'd probably be hungry, but it was my first time changing him in public too, and it's a tile bathroom, and we've kind of gotten him to a point where he has a little heating pad on his changing table, so he doesn't cry while he's getting changed, and he loves it.
You have a bougie baby? Is that what you're trying to
He
tell me?
does. He is. And it was cold, a tile, screaming his head off. And I felt guilty because I was just so frustrated, and we had a little bit of the bottle left because I knew he would cry. Not like that, and it was just echoing in there. And I just came out and was like, give me the bottle, and like aggressive with my husband. He's like, it's okay. Like, babies are going to cry in public. I'm like, not my baby.
Not my baby.
Not
Yes,
my baby.
Not right
Yep.
now. I'm not ready
Famous
for
last
it.
words.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not my baby.
Just so you guys
Yeah.
know, our infant pictures, Ella is crying, like screaming in them. At her 1-year-old pictures, Ella's also screaming in them. And at that 1-year-old, we actually had a photographer coming. My husband gets called into work. And so we're like literally like with the photographer at our house, like waiting for him to come back from work. He shows up in a button up and a tie. I don't even let him get changed. Again, we look at these pictures now and I'm like, why the heck? It's taking you 5 minutes to change out of your work clothes. He looks like completely displaced. And there's one picture where I'm like this, staring at him while Ella's on the floor and he's like, and we have these captured
That's
moments.
life.
Yeah.
That's truly
Yeah.
life.
Yep. So we used to call Ella bipolar Ella. Because she would go from being very happy laughing to screaming her head off. So, all right, what is one thing you wish that someone had either told you before becoming a mom or that you had known now that you are a mom? Or maybe they told you and you didn't believe them.
Ooh, there's a lot.
Okay.
It truly is. Like nobody tells you about the postpartum. Nobody talks about postpartum, which is probably the roughest.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about like, you know, the guilt that you have, the whole changing, all of like the hormones all over the place. Like they make it out to be like you have your baby and everything's like rainbows and sunshine.
Yeah.
And here you are struggling. Thankfully for me, like I didn't have issues with breastfeeding or my child latching or anything like that. But like you see moms that do, but then like you struggle in other areas. Like your child sleeping or, you know, just like Tyler was not colicky, but he had reflux really bad. And, you know, nobody tells you like, oh, your baby's esophagus doesn't fully close up until they're a year and they're going to have reflux. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like nobody talks about anything postpartum for you, for, you know, how your body's changing. Like my postpartum hair loss was awful and nobody tells you about that.
Yeah.
And I truly looked at my husband and I was like,
She's bald under that cap.
I am not.
Oh, okay.
But it's like nobody tells you like you feel like you're a cancer patient because your hair's just like falling out in
Falling out.
clumps.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that. And you just sit there and you're like struggling and you're like, is this only me?
Right.
And
Well, I mean, you kind of made the perfect example. Imagine if, let's give worst case scenario. You're a mother who just gave birth to a child and you don't have that instant love. You take this child home. You are now, you would talk about hangry or slangry. Like you're hungry, you're tired, sleep deprived. Now imagine you were had not eaten in like 8 hours or maybe like had half a cup of coffee, which the other half is now in the microwave, still not finished. If that's
You've microwaved it
always
six times.
Yeah. Now just imagine like if anyone, you don't even have a child, and you have not eaten, have not slept more than like an hour at a time, and suddenly you show up for a test that you didn't study for, you know nothing about, and it's life or death. If you get it wrong, if you don't do this right, like something could die, right? That's your child, right? Your child's a test. You don't know how to take care of it. You don't know anything about it. You don't know, like, you just know, like, it needs to breathe, it needs to sleep, it needs to eat. And when it's crying, I have no idea. Is it A, B, C, or D? None of the above.
Or Z.
Like, Yeah, right. Like I said, none of the above. Like it's none of those things. That's what I feel like motherhood is. And then you add the fact that your body looks different. Like it's not what it was.
Yep.
It's not coming back as fast as you thought it would. Let's say that you're struggling with any sort of breastfeeding, or, you know, now, or even that your child isn't getting enough and you're not sure. There's again the uncertainties. Your hair is falling out. So not only do you look in the mirror and you're like,
Who am I?
who is this person?
Yeah.
But you are struggling to even have a mental capacity to function as a human, let
Yep.
alone responsible for another human that you know nothing about.
Yep.
And the emotions that come with it. And so like now imagine being emotionally unstable for anyone who's ever like felt like I'm PMSing, I'm in my follicular stage, right? Like you're like emotional. Okay, well this is follicular stage on steroids.
Yep.
And tired and hungry and don't recognize yourself, and then something is screaming at you, like an alarm going off and it won't stop and you can't find the off button. I feel like that's the first 6 weeks of your child, like
100%.
and you can, and again, if you do insta love them, right? Like my kids finally like smiling at me, or those moments where you look down and like their little hands are over their face and they just look like exhausted and sweet. Like there's those moments you grab hold of, but then within 30 seconds now they're screaming and you're like, well, that was great. I'm glad,
Yeah.
You were
glad we
cute for
did
2
that.
seconds.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Yeah.
and so that's what motherhood felt like for me. I did not struggle with breastfeeding. I did struggle with bonding. I don't want to say struggle, but it wasn't what I thought happened. And you're right. I mean, there's so many things we don't talk about. You guys are kind of perfect examples, like the commercials that make you cry.
Yep.
You know, like somebody just says to you, you didn't hear it today, but you're a great mom. And you're like, oh, thank
Yeah.
you. Somebody sees me.
100%.
Like, it's
You
so
still feel like a
tough.
crappy mom when you hear
Yeah.
it.
Exactly.
Nobody talks about co-sleeping either.
Yeah.
I feel like
Our
I've-
society is very different here in Western society. Like very few people, like if you were to go to some countries and tell them that you take an infant and put them in a room behind a door inside a cage, they would be like,
What?
yeah. I
But
think
now,
co-sleeping is,
you do it and you're like, I just need like 2 solid hours,
Yep.
not 1, and I'll be okay, which is crazy to think about. And you start talking to people, I'm like, oh, we're co-sleeping. They're like, oh yeah, we did. And I'm like, why didn't y'all tell me? Y'all shamed me before while I was pregnant. I'm like, don't co-sleep. And like,
Yep.
oh, we all did it.
Exactly.
And some people did it until they were like 3 or longer
Well,
than that. I'm like, what the heck?
there's a joke that a CRNA that I work with, he was texting. I accidentally took a screenshot, sent it, and they were like, I still can't get over the fact that this person is sleeping on 2 king mattresses in their master bedroom with all 4 of their kids. Like, that was like, it just happened. It was kind of, and I was like, yeah, that was a text. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to share that. But I know for me, my kids were very like gurgly, like the not aspirating, but the refluxing, and they were very noisy. And I'm a very light sleeper, so I did need my kids away. But when they woke up, I brought them in, stuck them in my boob, and fell asleep. And when I mentioned the girls, like, don't wake the babies, I ran standing over my kids again in the crib, which was in our room initially until I found out it kept me up. I was staring at them at midnight. They'd been asleep for 3 hours, and I was like, you're gonna sleep for 3 hours. Should I wake them up? I should wake them up, right? So I did. At 4 o'clock in the morning, I am holding a child who's screaming. My husband is pacing in front of me, and he's like, why did you wake them? I'm like, I don't know why I woke them. And he's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. And we swaddled them, and my husband laid down and had an infant here and an infant here at 4 o'clock in the morning. We woke up at 11 a.m. I will tell you right now, even my latest nights in college, I didn't sleep till 11 a.m. But we slept for 7 hours straight with my husband, like here and here. So that was our very first night home. We co-slept and we made it through the night. But yeah, I think that you have to do what's best for you. I think some of the fear is, of course, like, will you be
Somebody's
so
gonna judge
sleep? Yeah.
me.
Well, it's more about, I think, safety issues.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
more like, well, one, how do you,
But
well,
as a
one,
mom, though, I will say that everybody's like, oh, well, it's a safety issue having them in the bed. And I'm like, I cannot physically, as a mom, sleep that deep in order to, like, let something happen to my child. It just wasn't going to be
and
able
I
to
just
happen.
became like stiff, I feel like.
Exactly.
because
You
I'm
just
like,
lay there and you're like, don't move.
Yeah.
You can close your eyes and rest just a little bit, but
He's gonna be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a couple hours, but
yeah, I would say when they're small, it definitely, I think, is easier for mothers to get more sleep. Once they start kicking you in the face and hands and stuff, like I ooh, I hate it when they climbed in the bed because I wouldn't sleep. But yeah, I think that you have to make that decision if that's something you can be comfortable with. Some people are so sleep deprived. Like there has been incidences of,
Rolling
children being
over.
suffocated. But
that
it is very small. And
Yeah.
I think, like you said,
Yeah.
if we looked at how many people actually do it versus how much it happens, you would say that. And they actually find that children's breathing actually aligns with their mothers, and they actually have lower levels of SIDS.
Yep.
So if we compared, like, a child being crushed versus SIDS, if mothers co-sleep and it's less likely to happen, it might actually be life-saving versus higher risk.
Yep.
So I mean, I can't speak to the science on that, but what advice would you give to a new mom feeling these pressures, like, besides like finding a support system or letting go of perfectionism, OCD mom, like?
Okay. Been everywhere, buddy. Hi. Did you find something? Are you having fun?
Yeah, so just for backstory, just like to kind of solidify this podcast, Megan's husband was supposed to be home today from work, but he actually got held up at work, so he was going to watch the kids so Megan could be here. So this is option B, y'all. We
Flashlight.
had to make it work.
The life of a firefighter.
For a small moment, we did reach out to a couple other moms, but I really wanted a good, like, fresh moment, fresh moms in the throes of baby adulting and toddlerhood.
I just see our production crew over there just freaking out every time he walks by a camera. They're like, ah.
My advice would be just live in the
Let it
moment.
happen.
Yeah, let it happen. I'm still working on that, and it's hard to like say that as advice, but like just let it go because it doesn't matter. It truly doesn't. And I still, like I said, I struggle because I like my things in order. I like my house clean. I don't want, but it's not feasible when you have children. Let it go. If you have a sink full of dishes or 3 loads of laundry that need to happen, just let it be because it's not going to change the fact that you're taking time away from your kids, which is something that they truly
Need and crave.
and crave.
Absolutely.
And you don't realize how much your child truly needs you and craves you in those first couple of years. And it's hard to be like, oh, well, you can just wait a minute. Because really, at that minute, they're probably truly needing you for some reason. So I'm
Yeah, letting it go.
letting it go.
It's
Yeah.
a huge one, yeah. That, and even with feeding too, I feel like letting go of like you have to breastfeed, you have to, okay, now you can't breastfeed, you have to pump, like just let it
Yeah.
go. Like I've been trying to learn to let that go with the formula because then I can be a better mom and I can just be there and be happy and he's
Yeah.
fed and he's happy. So
I think especially given the situation, kind of both of them, is realizing when you're doing it for you, not necessarily for your children. And so, what is best for them? And you said, on the formula, he's a happier baby. So I know, and I think in both ways you can argue, well, breastfeeding is supposed to be better for him, but if your relationship with your child's better, your child's sleeping better, your child's interacting better, like, I've done my due diligence, and whatever good magic fairy dust is in breast milk has done its part. But now I need him to sleep. I need him to be happy. I need to start bonding.
and I
and
need
having,
I need to sleep. You
Yeah.
need, so you can be a good parent. So.
Yeah.
I had a lot of guilt whenever I got pregnant with Tyler because Thomas was only 6-7 months old, and I had a lot of guilt that I wasn't going to be able to breastfeed him till 12 months. And I truly, it was a struggle, but after the fact, I'm like, you know what? It didn't hurt him in any way. He's perfectly fine.
He doesn't know.
No, he has knows no difference. And we tried the formula for a couple months, and he didn't care for it, so he just ate solid foods. And
Well, I was gonna kind of pull Paula into this, and please, validate what I'm about to say. My daughters, being 14 now, the first 6 years of my daughter's life, I never swore in front of them. I didn't drink in front of them. I made their baby food. Of course, I breastfed as long as I could. I felt like I did all the research, I did all the studies, I looked into private schools. I tried to do all the best things. My children do not remember any of it.
Nope.
They do not know what I gave up. They do not know the amount of time I went in. They actually know this crazy mom. This is the version of the mom they now know. They do remember my daughters. I always went in and actually went into each of their rooms because I have twins, so my daughters have never been one-on-one. So I went into each of their rooms to give them that alone time with mommy, and I would, we'd pray, we'd read a book, and they would get to choose one of 4 songs. They can still tell you what the 4 songs are. They still remember me singing it. They remember when I stopped doing it. And so
That's what they remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was, and that was just that's something I can hold on to and be like, that's something I did right, and that's something that mattered, and it matters now with their relationship with them. I mean, your kids are even older. You're past, your kids are truly what they're supposed to be, right? Technically, if you screwed them up, we would have seen it by now. Mine are still to be determined. What do you think about that? What do you think about the advice and those moments and the guilt? What do you have to say from a
Well,
immigrant
like I said,
raised?
it's there is no blueprint. There is no right and there's no wrong. Each person has to find their own way. What I did for my kids probably wouldn't work for your kids, won't work for yours. And I try really hard as a grandmother. I bite my tongue a lot because I had a different view on how to raise kids and what my daughter-in-law and my daughter do. And I know even between the two of them, they bite their tongues because what works for one household doesn't work for the other household. And I always have to tell everybody's going to find their own way. And you just cannot sit there and say, well, I would do it this way, I would do it that way.
Yeah.
Because I'm very proud of the 2 kids that I raised. I wanted to put back out into the world good people, and I feel like I did put good people into the world. And so to me, my journey's not done, but I can sit back and kind of take it easy now because I did my due diligence and I did put good people out there, and I think God looks down at me and says, you did good, Ninny. Now sit back and just enjoy the ride. So.
I think another thing is just try different things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because I am thankful for that part of the internet, because honestly, TikTok and Google has been a blessing in some cases.
Yes.
Where we thought him crying his head off for swaddles was normal, and it's not normal. Like, they should be content. And we tried 3 different swaddles. We tried the sleep sack, and now we're on a hands up swaddle. He looks like a little field goal post. He's so cute.
Oh,
but
he
that
likes his
works.
arms out.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that works.
Yeah.
And he's self-soothing at night. We were getting
Yeah.
like longer sleeps, but we wouldn't have known that if we didn't try different
Yeah.
things. So, like you said, what's going to work for someone is not going to work for another.
And what's
or
working
another
today
baby.
may not work tomorrow.
Yep.
You know.
You'll figure it out, and then next thing you know, something else changes. He
And
goes
keep
through
you
another
on your
growth
toes, that's for
spurt.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're always going to question everything that you're trying to do and
Yeah.
not do.
100%.
But you also have to start embracing confidence in your own parenting. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, at one point I lowered my standard and I was like, okay, listen, if they don't end up living in my basement or in jail, I'm successful.
That's what I'm telling you.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
Truly,
use-
that's truly
yeah.
what it is. It's like you are just trying to make a productive human of society.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because no one
And-
has it figured out.
Who's
Exactly.
not a dick.
Yeah.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I do want to say, if no one has told you yet, you're doing better than you think, Megan and Jackie.
And
Not you.
dang it.
I think we have to realize that motherhood is never meant to be a test that you either pass or failed.
Yeah.
I think motherhood is actually just a winging it, making it work. And there is no final score. There's no, like, you stayed home, so you're a better mom. You breastfed, so you get extra points. You know,
You didn't bite your kid in the face today.
right? So minus 2 points. Yeah, there's no right way to do it, and certainly no universal instinct that makes us better suited than somebody else.
Yep.
Even have identical twins, I can say for a fact, things that worked for one didn't work for the other.
Yep.
How I interacted with one isn't how I interact with the other. They were very individuals. Had similarities, but we have to stop carrying those expectations, whether they come from society, our family, or in a lot of cases, it sounds like ourselves. And we can, because we can really make ourselves feel like we're falling short. But in reality, you're already the mother your child needs.
Yep.
No matter how you gave birth, how you fed them, how many moments of doubt you had along the way, if your child, is happy in that moment, be happy that you created that moment for your child, right?
Sure.
So let's rewrite the narrative. If you are not filling up motherhood, you are living it. Just like your child is learning to be a person, you're learning to be a mother. You are not a mother of a 9-week-old in such days. You've never been that mother before. I've never been a mother to a 14-year-old before. So, you're a human being just trying to figure it out. So let's give ourselves grace. Let's give each other grace. And most of all, let's give our kids the grace to grow, learn, and love us just as we are. So on our next episode, stay tuned. I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but I'm sure it'll be life-changing. We are making the world better, one episode at a time, whether you like it or not, or whether you are listening or not. At least that's what I hope. Thank you, and bye.